Good morning, everyone. Today is Budget Day, and we want to tell you what Conservatives are hoping that we're going to see in the budget today, and also what, unfortunately, we expect to see. The one thing that we know is the further left the Liberals go, and the more money they spend, the more expensive everything gets for Canadians. The last 6 years are proof of that. Canadians are much worse off today than they were 6 years ago. What Conservatives are looking for is a responsible fiscal management budget and controlled spending, which in turn will help address inflation. We want to see substantial tax cuts, whether it's income tax, corporate tax, GST, or carbon tax. The government has a range of options to offer relief to Canadians. Canadians cannot afford any more increases in the cost of food, fuel, or housing. Enough is enough. We want to see a serious solution to the housing inflation crisis. The average cost of a house in 2015 was around $400,000. Today, that same house is $800,000 and climbing. This is not sustainable, and another ineffective government program is not the answer. What we fear is that today's NDP Liberal budget will be neither reasonable nor responsible. The days of moderate Liberal budgets are over. Under Justin Trudeau, the Liberal Party continues to push risky and expensive economic policies. We fear that today's budget will be one of big NDP spending. It will be an NDP budget, not a Liberal one. The Prime Minister is ignoring calls for a moderate, responsible budget from people within his own party. He's ignoring Canadians who need real help with the cost of living pressures. He's ignoring our calls for moderate tax relief for Canadians. He repeatedly said no to our request to give Canadians a GST holiday on fuel or cut the carbon tax. Unfortunately, this Prime Minister isn't listening to anyone except the NDP, which is his guarantee of power. Canadians should also expect that anyone who disagrees with the Prime Minister on this budget will be dismissed and called names. We are very concerned that Trudeau will continue his pattern of wedging, dividing, and stigmatizing Canadians as he has done in the past. Conservatives, however, will be unwavering in our goal and our determination to unite Canadians and give them hope once again. We believe the best way to unite this country again is to make life more affordable and empower Canadians to be able to work hard, earn a living, provide for their families, and get ahead. We don't believe that's too much to ask for in today's budget. Thank you very much. Merci. I will now ask my colleague Luc Berthold to provide a statement en français.
Merci beaucoup, Leader. C'est aujourd'hui que le gouvernement NPD libéral va déposer son budget. Une chose est sûre, plus les libéraux dépensent, plus les Canadiens sont laissés de côté. À quoi peut-on s'attendre aujourd'hui du budget? Une prédiction, je vous dirais qu'il ne faut pas s'attendre à un budget responsable, équilibré ou même modéré. La tendance lourde des libéraux et leur propension à dépenser de l'argent emprunté connaîtra son apogée avec cette entente conclue secrètement entre Justin Trudeau et Jacques Meadcy. Faisons face à la réalité. C'est aujourd'hui que le Canada va connaître les détails du premier budget néo-démocrate de son histoire. Les Canadiens travaillent fort et malgré ça, ils demeurent impuissants vis-à-vis de la hausse du coût de la vie. Les taxes et les impôts sont de plus en plus élevés. L'inflation a atteint un niveau record en 30 ans. Le prix de l'essence, du panier d'épicerie, les logements grimpent en flèche. Le coût des maisons a doublé depuis l'accession au pouvoir de Justin Trudeau. Présentement, combien de jeunes familles sont incapables de s'acheter une maison comme leurs parents et leurs grands-parents? Combien de parents doivent faire des choix difficiles à l'épicerie? Et combien de travailleurs ont de la difficulté à faire le plein d'essence dans leur véhicule? Les Canadiens méritent un budget responsable et un budget équilibré. Un budget qui réduit les taxes et les impôts des familles et qui leur procure une sécurité financière. Aujourd'hui, comme conservateurs, nous aurions souhaité voir un plan qui contrôle les dépenses, un plan qui s'attaque à l'inflation et un plan qui réduit le coût des produits essentiels. On veut un budget qui répond aux problèmes de l'abordabilité des logements et qui favorise l'accès à la propriété pour des millions de Canadiens. On veut que l'économie des Canadiens soit plus forte. Le Parti libéral, lui, préfère diviser et stigmatiser les Canadiens qui ne sont pas d'accord avec lui. Vous le verrez aujourd'hui dans les réactions du premier ministre à tous ceux et celles qui ne seront pas d'accord avec lui. Il préfère s'attaquer à celles qui ne sont pas d'accord avec leur hausse de taxes, leur augmentation d'impôts et leur dette élevée. Ils vont continuer d'ignorer les Canadiens qui souffrent encore et toujours de l'inflation. Et ils votent même contre des mesures sensées qui donneraient un répit aux Canadiens. Puis je pense ici à notre demande d'élimination temporaire de la TPS sur l'essence et à la suspension de la taxe sur le carbone, telle que les conservateurs l'avaient demandé. Nous le disons à nouveau, plus les libéraux virent à gauche, plus les Canadiens sont abandonnés. Heureusement, vous pouvez compter sur les conservateurs pour se battre pour les Canadiens. Nous allons travailler fort à redonner de l'espoir aux Canadiens. Merci.
Nous allons maintenant commencer la période de questions. We'll now start the question period. We only have time for a couple of questions, so we'll start with Chris Rance.
Hi, Ms. Bergen. We all believe in the budget that the government will raise taxes on the big six banks and other corporations who've done well during COVID by about 3%. Just wondering, is this the time to raise the sort of taxes on the big six?
Conservatives don't ever believe raising taxes is a good thing. Certainly, we've been advocating for reduced taxes for Canadians at the pump. We asked for a reduction on GST holiday. We've asked for them to stop the carbon tax. But when you're increasing taxes, even on businesses, whether it's corporations, small businesses, it has an effect on investment. It has an effect on long-term growth. We said that we want to see a budget that has a plan for long-term growth, and Conservatives believe that if you increase taxes, you harm the economy. So no, we don't believe this is the time to increase taxes on anyone or any sector.
And it's good to see you personally. I understand your husband had COVID and was recovering. There is a health and safety ruling by the Speaker of the House of Commons that until June, every single person in the halls of this building wear masks. Yet 8 of your MPs, most notably former Speaker Andrew Scheer, Rachel Harder, Jeremy Patzer, and others, continue to walk through the halls of this building without masks. They are aware of this. There are free masks at the door. They refuse to do that. What can you do to get them to follow the health and safety of the person who runs this place?
I would encourage everyone in the precinct to follow rules, to wear masks. We probably all have seen examples of people not wearing masks when they should be. So we would encourage everyone to do that. And we're all looking forward to the day when we can get back to normal. And it's good to see a lot of provinces, including my home province, removing all the restrictions. We're looking forward to the federal government, including here on the precinct, following science, evidence, and removing restrictions. But until they are removed, we would encourage everyone to follow all of the rules.
Thank you. Next question, Jim.
Thank you. Ms. Bergen, you mentioned housing as a priority and a concern. Could you give us a bit more detail about what your party would propose to ease the housing crisis?
Well, we've been saying for a long time to ease the crisis, which is, let's be clear, this is a housing inflation crisis. This is the cost of housing, the value of a house doubling in a very short time, which is not sustainable. The answer to that is increased supply. And in order to increase supply, municipalities have to be part of the solution, obviously provinces, but the federal government can play a big role in incentivizing municipalities to allow the private sector to build homes. There needs to be a much greater supply of housing, especially at the entry level, and that will be part of the solution. There are also issues around limiting foreign ownership, and those solutions have to actually happen. But these government programs that dribble out, here's $10,000 that you'll have to pay back. I mean, this is not a matter of people not being able to save $10,000 or $15,000 for a house. They cannot afford $1 million home that 5, 6, 7 years ago would have cost them half that amount. So we believe that the solution absolutely has to do with increased supply. We believe the private sector can provide that, and they want to. Private sector wants to build, but there are so many roadblocks, barriers, costs, and the federal government seems to be ignoring that and just letting municipalities and cities basically see the cost of housing go up.
On carbon, it's clear, your policy is very clear on that. What would you propose instead of the federal program to help Canada meet its climate targets, assuming those are important?
Well, Canada has got an amazing range of options in order to not only meet our targets, but also help the world reduce their emissions. So whether it's our LNG, whether it is obviously nuclear, we're very disappointed to see the government ignore nuclear to the extent that they have. Nuclear is going to play a huge role in reducing emissions and providing clean power. This government hasn't even included nuclear in their green bond. One has to wonder why. Are they actually following science, or are they following another agenda that we're not aware of? So we believe Canada has been playing a role, not just when it comes to natural resources, but the agricultural sector, fisheries, obviously mining. We believe strongly in the in our oil, gas, natural resources sector to displace Russian oil, for example. So Conservatives believe in Canada. We believe in our natural resources. We believe in what we already are doing to reduce emissions. And there's only one party that is constantly dismissing our natural resources and wanting to shut them down, which will hurt the environment overall, and that's the Liberals.
Dernière question, last question. We will have more to say after the budget is tabled. On aura plus à dire après le dépôt du budget.
Hi, I'm here with True North, and I just wanted to ask you, you talked about a fiscally prudent budget or working to balance the budget, but you also talked about tax cuts. The last deficit was in the billions, and there's over $1 trillion of national debt. So how do you get this extra revenue to try to balance the books or to reduce the debt when you're also wanting to cut taxes?
When a government has long-term growth in mind, and when they put forward policies that encourage growth in a country, especially a country as rich as Canada, the economy will grow. So let's get our natural resources firing on all cylinders. Let's get people working in every sector, in every region of this country. Let's cut taxes for Canadians so that they have more money and they can spend it the way that they want to. These are all just basic economic principles that work. And you know why we know they work? Over the last 6 years, with every single budget the Liberals have delivered, they have gone further and further to the left, further and further in big spending and big government programs, increasing taxes on Canadians, and we are going further and further behind in terms of deficit and inflation. So I think the proof is in the last 6 years.
Okay, and I wanted to ask a bit, the Liberals and NDP in their deal, they talked about pharmacare and dental care. Now for Canadians, especially that are feeling maybe the crunch of inflation, this may come up as an appealing policy to get subsidized or free dental care, pharmacare. How do Conservatives counter that? Do you embrace maybe a diet version or a less big version of this program, or do you maybe offer more free market options, or say it's maybe up to the provinces to offer such services?
Well, thank you for asking that. The fact is, every time the Liberals announce a big program and spend a lot of money, Canadians are further behind. So we obviously don't trust them to implement a multi-billion-dollar, whether it's a pharmacare program or a dental program, nor is it their job to do that. It is the province's job to implement those programs. We believe very strongly that whether it's children, low-income Canadians that need help on pharmacare or dental programs, they deserve to get that help. It's provinces that deliver that. And the federal government's job is to provide sustainable funding to the provinces in terms of social health transfers. And then the provinces could do that. So do we trust the NDP and the Liberals to deliver a national pharmacare or dental program? No. We believe that the provinces should be able to do that. They know what's needed in each one of their jurisdictions, but we do want to see Canadians helped in a way that their provinces decide is the best way to do it.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Ceci me fait la conférence de presse. Merci.
Merci.